Okay, so open your Procreate. What I typically do when I start a Procreate project is that I um, either find a photo that I'm going to use as a reference, or I just start with a new. So I click Add, Canvas size. I'm going to go with 4 by 6 because I think that's most like a sketchbook page. I'm going to select a color, go closer to black, and I'm going to use my finger for this tutorial so that you can get a sense of what's possible without your stylus. Okay, so now I'm going to select the brush. The brush that I want to use is going to be what I think is close to a pencil. So it's under drawing. So you'll select drawing, you'll go to the one that you like. I tap on it and then I make sure that it's doing what I want. If you want it to kind of be a little funky, you can see how moving these sliders changes the way the brush presents when you make marks. Right? And now I'm going to just do what the assignment was, which was create a loopy line. It takes up much of the page. All right. So all of these closed forms can have certain things in them. So I'm going to select a paintbrush. Select a round brush, just because that makes sense to me. And I'm going to select a different color. And I'm going to change the opacity is already at 50%, which is great. I'm going to actually increase the brush size for when I'm going to be painting in here. It has a couple of functions with the palette. If you hold it down, it'll revert to the previous color. So I don't want to revert. I just want to take this. All right, well, we're just going to paint then. It'll be more like real life. Okay, so I'm going to take my smudge tool, because I told you I'm so fond of, and I'm going to just kind of even out my wash so that it's not quite so intense. Actually performs a little bit like real paint. This is kind of crazy. Okay, so there is one color. Now I'm going to switch to more orange red. And go back to my brush. Is keeping your edges the way that you want them. Okay. And now I would like to add a bit of a light blue. Cooler. There we go. And I'm going to use the flat brush because I get the sense that the flat brush is going to give me a slightly better way to control my edges and my overlaps. There is... Sometimes it's really a pain in the butt because you have to sort of get everything in one shot. That looks pretty good, yes? Okay. And then during the demo today, I made things a faded gradient. So this might take a little more work for you and for me. I'm going to put this faded purple gradient in here. I am going to use the watercolor brush and see how I like it. I want to make sure that this is actually how I want it. And the fall off is probably important because that will let me do some more watercolor-like techniques. So we'll see. Okay, I think that's a good brush. We'll see. Alright, so we've got this purple. Yeah. Fill this space. And this is very much like actual watercolor right now because it's just as difficult to control. It's a little bit of a challenge. But I really do enjoy it. Okay, now here's where the smudge is really going to be important. I think I'm going to use the flat brush smudge. Right, I'm going to go back with my watercolor brush and add another layer. And then I think to get this the way that I would like it, I'm going to use the smudge tool, but I'm going to use it with the watercolor brush and just see how I feel about it. Oh, let's try damp brush. I've never used that. That's nice. Okay, that's nice. Kind of creating a little bit of a texture, but I sort of enjoy it. It looks like the real deal, so to speak. And you can just toggle back and forth between these brushes. The colors in. Sort of killed that little blue guy, but it's okay. Okay, and now everything's super homogeneous. So we want a crazy space. I might clean this up a little. Right here. So I've gone to my eraser tool. And maybe a tad small. And that's on full opacity, so it's really getting back down to the white surface. And I can use it kind of to clean up in areas that I feel like need it. I don't think it's super important because this now looks like a watercolor. Alright, so we're going to take the round brush. We want to make sure, it's always good to sort of like check, oh wait, what brush am I using? Because you're certainly going to find that I'm going to try the Fresco brush. Let's see what it... Okay, and then I'm just going to use this yellow ochre that I did today in class, if I can figure out where, there it is. And I'm just going to do I'm gonna go with splatters. I really like this splatter brush. I find it is pretty close to real life. And we're gonna choose that nice blue and so I've switched devices here for recording. Let's see how it goes with this different. I'm using QuickTime and my document camera. You don't need to know that, but in case you ever wanted to make a how-to video. Alright, so I have my brush that I think I want to use here, and I'm finding actually that I don't like the way it's coming out. So if you haven't already discovered this, the double tap is the undo button. And you can undo, there are a couple different hand gestures you can use to undo. I'm going to make a flat brush. I'm going to go pretty small. And I am going to just fill this in. And I'm going to increase the opacity. The flat brush does a really nice job at making a flat wash layer, which I appreciate about it. Okay, so let's zoom back out and see how this thing is looking. So I'm just going to pause for a second and get my... So I just grabbed this. This is what we did today in class. It's upside down. Here is the iPad, and here is the actual on paper idea. And so I'm going to keep this up to look at. You can see where I copied some of the things. And then we need to put the dry brush technique that's here into this shape right there. And we'll see how it all goes. All right, so we're going to zoom in. Ta-da. And I'm going to choose... I really sort of like the inking brush library for the dry brush technique. Thylacine, I'm not sure what a thylacine is. I'm not sure why it's called that, but we're going to do it. We're going to make that work. I'm always very intrigued by these other palettes, and sometimes I play around with them, and sometimes I get great results, and sometimes not so much. But look, they have a dry brush option, so let's try that. Thylacine it just is it's kind of mimicking what I think of as dry brush technique. So we'll try that. So, well, oh yeah. Let's see if we can. I think it's too opaque. Let's dial back the opacity about 50-ish%. And then, oh, that's better. Maybe still a little. And so, kind of okay. Here, let's see what happens if we go in and mess around, which is my favorite game. Mm. 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 Okay, and make it even a little smaller. Oh, that's nice. So we're just gonna keep doing some of this fun. Not loving the way this is coming out, but it's better than what we did have. And so you'll see, unfortunately, not like painting in real life, you do have to sort of, you have to have a different kind of patience. It is a very different process. And I don't love that. I don't love any of it. That's good. Okay, let's see what happens now. Now, oh yeah, that is much more what I was hoping for. So persistence pays off. And I don't know if you can guess what it is, but having worked against myself for this whole time, we're just gonna have to make life easier here. And of course, you might come up with an even better solution. Okay, let's zoom out and see how that works. Not too bad. Let's remind ourselves of what we were aiming for. And it's not the worst. Could be better, but we're still learning, right? Okay, so now let's try this, which is what we were looking for in the first place. Much better. let's see what we can play with. Not the worst, not the best. All right. So tomorrow we'll play with some gouache and some studio brushes on this. But for now, there's your iPad watercolor demo. See y'all on the flip flop.